Good evening. It is 6 o'clock and we've got a very, very busy agenda and a lot of things that take place tonight. So let's go ahead and get started. Call to order Jackson County Board of Education work session for tonight, March the 8th. I believe it's March already. We will keep on moving. Dr. Howard, turn it over to you.
Very good. Thank you and welcome to all. I want to go through the superintendent's comments very quickly because we have a guest who I'd like to get on first with your blessing. So just a reminder that immediately following this meeting tonight, we have our Parent Advisory Council, looking forward to that, and we have our board retreat tomorrow, and Mr. Nicholson and I will touch on that a little bit more in just a few minutes. West Jackson Elementary School is the site of our board meeting on Monday night. And then, of course, you see there, as you know, Monday we have what was scheduled to be a professional learning day, and it is now going to be, thank you, it's now going to be used as a school day for our students. And we've sent that out. I want to thank Ms. Bridgman and others who we did a mass mailing to communicate some upcoming important events, and very, very appreciative for that effort. Relay for Life reminder there, and graduation dates coming up. So we have entered the spring season. If you have any free moment, you can find a spring sport, a spring activity, a play, anything that you want to entertain your time, because it's quite busy at our schools, but really, really good things going on for our kids. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Nicholson, who's going to probably flip-flop 1 and 2 and introduce our guests tonight.
I am. It's my pleasure. This evening we have Rashonda Merritt and Tamara Freeman that are going to do a presentation for us on a human growth and development program that exists, and I'm going to turn it over to the two of you. Thank you for being here.
My name is Tamara Freeman. I'm one of your regional nurses, for anybody that doesn't know me by now. We do human growth and development every year for 4th and 5th graders. And we started I think with Dr. Blankenship, that our program is very outdated. And so because we work very closely with both the Jefferson and the Commerce Health Departments, they are a vital resource for us. And so I was talking with Ms. Barrett, and she said, Tamara, we can help you. So they have a program for human growth and development for 4th and 5th graders that are, I would say, maybe a little more up to date and cool than what we got, because ours is a cartoon, and the first thing my 4th and 5th graders say to me is, they have no mouths. You know, and you think at that point, man, I might have lost them already. So she was nice enough to say she would come to the board office, kind of tell you about the program, and I would like to thank y'all in advance for the consideration of allowing the health department to come in and help us.
So thank you very much. My name is Rashonda Merritt. I've been with the health department for about 16 years now. And I didn't do a flash drive, and I apologize for that, but we have PowerPoints that I've passed out here. So basically, we go in the spring in your other 2 school districts here in the county, and we talk to their 4th and 5th grade classes, and we separate the males from the females, so they're not all in together. So myself and a co-worker, and then there's a staff member from each school that'll be in there with us. And basically we talk about things, very simple language, hygiene, deodorant, washing your hair. We talk about puberty, and we actually define the word puberty. And we talk about when kids should expect to go through the puberty process. And what we've learned is we used to do this presentation like in 6th grade, but many may not know that the onset age for menstrual cycles and puberty now in young ladies begins at age 9. So what we found is that by 6th grade, we had missed that whole little group of young ladies and guys that didn't have any knowledge of what was going to happen to their body. So we talk about their hips getting wider, they're getting taller, their voices changes. We talk about the pituitary gland. We define the word estrogen and testosterone. We talk about breast development with the young ladies. And my daughter and my son are here, and they're both 6th and 5th grade. We talk about young ladies starting their menstrual cycles, how to care for their bodies during that time, how to dispose of those products so that you don't have a flood at the school and you're not clogging up toilets, because it happens. We talk about that. We talk about everybody beginning puberty at your own, when it's your time. But everybody's not gonna start at the same time, so we don't want you to pick at the kid next to you if you've got the full beard and this kid is slick as a baby. Like, we don't want you to do that. We want you to be mindful of what other children and your peers are going through, because they probably have the same questions and concerns that you do. We talk about, I said hygiene. So we talk about acne, using deodorant. Because you'd be surprised that our 4th and 5th graders sometimes are a little stinky. So wearing clean socks, wearing clean underwear. We talk about the importance of exercise, fruits and veggies during those times of puberty. And we talk about self-esteem, because when we know what comes along with puberty are those hormones. And self-esteem, and how you might not like your parents, but you still need to respect them. You might have feelings for the opposite sex, but you still need to act like a little lady, you know, crossing your legs, we're not dressing provocative, that kind of thing. So we keep it very simple for them. And then we send them home with this little, it's like a little talking point. Because what we want to do is strike conversation with them to go home and talk to their parents. The parents at the other 2 school districts, they use an opt-out permission slip. So I have maybe had 2, and we've been doing this for about 5 years now. And it was only because the parents just had a question. So they pick up the phone, they call me because they put my name and number on the opt-out. I explain it to them, they're like, yeah, please talk to my kid about that. So that's it. It takes us about 30 minutes to do the presentation, but there's about a good 15-20 minutes of question and answers from the kids. Both of my children have gone through it at their school system. One was more embarrassed than the other, but it happens. And Jackson County School Systems currently has the FLASH curriculum in your middle school and high school, family life and sexual health. This technically isn't a FLASH curriculum. It's just really a PowerPoint we've created and we've kind of used some of the FLASH, but you didn't adopt the FLASH for elementary school. So I thought it was very important. Tamara thought it was very important. You all thought it was very important to see, because we want to be transparent. When people hear health department, you know, sometimes they have this stigma in their minds. We want to be transparent about what we're teaching the children. Does anyone have any questions? And thank y'all for letting me go first. I'm going over to choices. Yes, Ms. Lisa.
Is there training for the teachers of this to not go above and beyond the curriculum?
So
I know that you can only control.
Yeah, I think it was about, I don't know if you remember, Dr. Morris, but the health department paid for the training of all health teachers and counselors with Jackson County School Systems when we first adopted FLASH. And some of those teachers are still with your school system, some have moved on, but we actually flew in people from Washington State to come in and train. And there is actually a curriculum in a book that we go by, and your school system adopted everything except the portion on sexual identity, LGBTQ. So if someone were to come to me and a high school teacher were to say, hey, Ms. Merritt, we need a lesson on teen dating violence, I'll go to the FLASH curriculum, go to that lesson, and then it's there. But your teachers are they have access to the curriculum. A lot of the high school male teachers use us. I think it's more comfortable for them. We go and spend a whole week at East Jackson High School twice a year, and we have different topics of subjects such as teen dating violence, consequences, choices, human anatomy. We define the reproductive system. But if any teacher wanted to go through this, we have resources at our district where we could have someone that is called Train the Trainer, because the person that does the training actually had to go through a special training to teach others. Yes, ma'am, we can offer that. Any questions? Any more questions?
To reiterate, we own the FLASH curriculum, as Ms. Merritt said, at middle and high school. So one option could be that we purchase for 4th and 5th. The issue comes up is who teaches that, and that's been an issue for years now. The fact that we have health department, that is their expertise, that's what they do as professionals, that they're willing to come into the school, brings a level of professionalism to that, and it kind of gets rid of the question of who is going to teach this and who's going to own it. And so that they've already been in our high schools, we thought, well, if we can, with your blessing, have them work with our elementary. That seemed like a more logical approach than purchasing the elementary, training teachers, taking time from health, PE, whatever else, and making sure that because we've got consistency here. We've got the same two folks that come through. So all we have to do is be present and be supportive and be very thankful that they're willing to provide that service. So that's.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought we had teachers in each school because that's what happened with my two kids.
We have.
We no longer do that.
We do right now, but what the
So that's what the presentation's
yes,
for.
Exactly.
It's not just 4th and 5th grade, but
Right.
And I was trying to be really quick because I knew she had another.
That's okay, that's okay.
I didn't
Take your time.
contextualize that for
I thought
you.
it was the PE teacher.
It has been, but
Okay.
but Ms. Merritt and her counterpart would come in and actually provide this training for
Yes.
just for. We would have another person from each of our schools there present with them, but that's just really
That's it,
to make sure that it's for their
Yes, ma'am.
I'm clicking.
protection.
Yes, in the past, it has been myself, Rhonda Brewer, who is our lead nurse, our lead regional nurse. And I'm sorry she couldn't be here. She had a death in the family. She is in Missouri. We had some PE teachers that taught it. Our biggest problem was everyone was more comfortable with a male going in with the boys. And I certainly understand that because I used to have to teach the boys and I was as uncomfortable as they were. But we don't have a lot of males left that I can just pull and say, we've got 6 elementary schools and I need help in this. So that's when we really started looking and started looking at the program and trying to figure out where resources were that we could pull from. And we actually started talking about this during flu shots. Waiting for, school to be out and the teachers to come get their flu shots. And we were discussing human growth and development. She's like, Tamara, we can do this. And so it was a wonderful resource. And y'all, I just had to plug it.
When would this be taught and how long is the curriculum?
So it usually just takes, so I'll just use another school that we go to. They're not as large as you guys, my children's school. So we were able to do it in about 45 minutes, usually do it the last period of the day. They separate those boys and girls, and my coworker goes in with one, I go in with another, we do it, and they go home. And we try to do it in the spring because or during a time where, like right before spring break or right before something that's coming up, so it can strike conversation. Try to do it on a Friday if you can, because kids are going to talk. And at the end of the day, we want to be able to talk to them at the end of the day and not early in the morning, because sometimes we get grant money where we can bring in personal hygiene products. So the little girls might get a little pad, the little boys might get a little deodorant, and we just don't want them playing with those things throughout the day. So get them, take them home, get on the bus.
Just a one day?
Just one day, yes, sir. One day. That's it.
And we have 6 elementary schools, so it would be 6 days.
Yeah, and we're willing to go anytime, any day. That's what we're here as a resource. So we love to do that.
It's fantastic.
That makes sense.
Thank you. Alrighty. So anything else? I'm going to wrap up and head over to the Choices program.
Ms. Mayor, thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
So, Mr. Nicholson, I will defer to you. This really doesn't need to be an action item unless we consider it curriculum. But if it does need to be an action item, we can add it to the agenda Monday. I think this is the very best option that we can. I mean, that's amazing that their level of professionalism and consistency would be available to us. So, I welcome the board's thoughts on that, and I defer to you on whether you would consider this a curriculum.
It's not necessarily curriculum adoption, but I do want to just make sure we have the board's blessing
Right.
that this is the logical approach that we want to take.
Sounds good to me.
Exactly. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you for working on that. I know Kat was a part of that as
Yes,
well, and
absolutely.
appreciate everybody's efforts because this is the best way to go. Thank you, Ms. Freeman.
I'm going to choices.
Thank y'all for going to that. I'm going to work with Sheriff Mangum on, this is the 3rd year in a row it's conflicted on our board session.
It's wonderful.
It is fantastic.
It is
I know
wonderful.
it is.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
The other item, brief, strategic plan and retreat overview. We have a retreat all day tomorrow. Hopefully you knew that and that was on your calendar. And a large portion of what we'll do is, as Dr. Howard has mentioned, we're 5 years into our strategic plan, and so we want to be able to provide with you some evidence of where we believe we are, some of the success stories, make sure that we're prepared to answer any questions that y'all might have about our progress. And that will take a good portion of tomorrow, so I won't spend a whole lot of time with that this evening, other than to tell you that this also leads into some of the work that we'll do for advanced ed accreditation. And it's not that we're doing it for accreditation, but it's most importantly, it's a time for us to pause, reflect, and really determine whether or not we've made the progress that we said we were going to make 5 years ago. And I'm very pleased that in just about every case we have either made the progress that we intended to make, or we're along that road, and that there's some positive momentum and inertia. And if you've seen the survey that Dr. Howard shared, there are a lot of individual initiatives that we've been working on over the course of the last 5 years. And so it's more to come tomorrow, really, unless you have anything else you'd like to add.
No, I think that's perfect. And just a reminder, if you will recall, that we had stakeholder conversations at the 2 high schools. And so my suggestion is that we go ahead this evening and share with this advisory group that we really want to pull them into the table and help us facilitate these conversations in the community. And we'd like to introduce the concept of community-based accountability, so that we really look at what our community values in terms of their students' educational benefit. And we had a training last week that I mentioned to you in a text, the John Tanner training. And it's not that we're not exercising the attention to testing and the scores that come from a state level, but that's one assessment, and there's much more of a comprehensive look that we'd like to take in terms of the benefit we offer to our students. And so we talk about that as a part of our planning as well. So looking forward to tomorrow, and we'll kick that effort off, but I am going to mention it at tonight's advisory council meeting as well. So, all right, Dr. B.
All right, good evening. Very short human resources update. And obviously, we'll talk more about this tomorrow, but you have some personnel list to consider. We have an enrollment update for you for February. We are up a few students overall, and most of our schools have stayed pretty steady. Our high schools have seen a slight change, but added a few students at a couple of our elementary schools and one of our middle schools. So that explains that change, but we're holding pretty steady at around 7,600, 7,700.
14 from last month.
Yes.
So that's a significant change.
And then the last item is the job description that we brought forth last month for consideration. So that will be an action item for us to approve that job description.
All right, very good. All right, I think there's some good news on the financial front as well. So Ms. Dodge and Ms. Bryant, I will give you the privilege. They have right on top of their packet the operating fund balance, so that's a good story to tell.
Since that's on the top, we'll go ahead and look at that. As you can see, our fund balance at the end of this month is phenomenal, and you can go back to 6-7 years, and there's not anything that's even really close to where we are right now. So hats off to everybody that has worked so hard to make this happen, and it will help our planning for next year's budget, and hopefully we'll continue to see that steady maintenance of that fund balance, because again, this was the first year in 20-something years that we didn't have to have a TAN, and that was a tremendous thing. So if you want to look at the financial statements, we are about 2% under where we should be for expenditures at this point in the year. So again, we've done very well with being conservative and maintaining our spending, and again, that's contributed to our healthy fund balance. And then our revenues are looking great. We've collected almost 93% of our property taxes at this point, which is phenomenal.
That's amazing.
I mean, to collect 93% overall is a pretty big feat. So the fact that we're, just ending February, starting into March, and we collect 93%, that's a very, very good sign. And then for our SPLOST, we're down a little bit from last month, but it's kind of a common theme that in January your spending and your SPLOST revenues decrease a little bit, but we are still up over 70,000 from this time last year. So, and again, our 12-month average continues to climb and climb and climb. So that's really, really great with all the construction and facilities and things that we need. So maybe that just continues to climb and climb and climb and climb. So we're still looking great. Everything on track. We'll get to talk lots more about it tomorrow.
I was going to say, they've worked really hard to have a very thorough presentation for tomorrow related to the budget. I just want to take an opportunity to shout out to our tax assessor's office, and the communication has been great and clearly working well with our
Yes,
tax
we should
office. So we're
have
grateful
some preliminary tax digest figures from them towards the end of this month. So that's months ahead of what we've been in the past year or so. So yes, grateful to them for the hard work that they do, and I can't wait to see that digest.
The budget that we'll share with you tomorrow is certainly only preliminary because we don't have that digest yet. We're gonna go conservative on the front end, but hopefully we'll be able to have more firm numbers by May or so.
And I do want to mention real quick, it's not on the agenda. We have been offered from one of our local financial institutions, actually the one that we do the majority of our banking with, a very, very, very nice investment offer that would match the local government investment pool, but then we would be keeping our business here with our local financial institution, and instead of trying to transfer monies from the state government to our local bank, we could just do internal transfers, and they are matching everything and not charging us a single fee. Last year we paid over $20,000 in fees to the Georgia Fund 1 investment, and they're not charging us any fees. So I just want to present that for consideration, and
maybe we could ask them to provide that, because that would need to be an action item most likely.
Yes,
Transfer
yes.
from the local government investment pool over to them. So we need some contractual information, but I think that's fantastic. They're willing to do that.
fully collateralized, of course.
Yeah.
So
It's great.
That's great, yeah.
It's a win-win.
That's
It's much easier. It saves you some time too in terms
Saves
of the
time.
sweeps.
you can, I mean, it's a immediate transfer instead of days or a couple of days, lag time. And
Yeah.
again, the savings of the fees that right now Georgia Fund 1 does charge us.
Great. Thank you for exploring that.
Very good.
All right, very good. So we'll explore and talk more about the budget. Budget and personnel are big topics tomorrow. We're going to spend the morning contextualizing that. And while Miss Amanda brings that our operations conversation up, just want to make you aware that we do have some visitors tomorrow. Dr. Jones is going to come and give us a little bit of an update on where they are with an international baccalaureate application and candidacy. And then following his visit, we're going to have several representatives from the Empower College and Career Centers Board to come and speak with us and share the vision and where their progress is. And then Sheriff Mangum is going to join us for kind of a lunch and learn to talk about school safety. So we've got a lot of information, but I think they're very relevant and helpful topics. So just as a preview for that. Tomorrow's afternoon will primarily be continued conversations about our budget as it relates to personnel, but as it also relates to SPLOST and capital improvements. So I'm going to ask Mr. Patton and Mr. Gilbert if we can do some updates related to the timeline for the West Jackson Middle School project, as well as how we plan to address the overcrowding.
Sounds great. Good evening to everyone. Mr. Patton and I will kind of tag team on this just a little bit. We're both grateful to hear the good news about SPLOST and the dollars. Need a lot more of that. So, but we shared last month a bit about West Jackson Middle and the project, and a lot of information actually. And this is a good time to update that. I'll tell you a little bit about where we are right now. Is we're in the bid process. The drawings are complete and have been out for bid. And we'll go, in fact, we'll go a couple of slides, and you'll see first is the project schedule for phase one. And I'll tell you that we have not defined a phase one and a phase two with our construction managers and our architect, but as we've looked at budgets and as we look at particularly the process of working with the school and how we want to do as little disruption as we can at the school level. And we've anticipated a very short summer because we lost a weekend with the new calendar. And so we're about 8 weeks, and 8 weeks is not a long time in the construction world. And we're also in a very busy construction area of the country, I guess. The South is just booming, Atlanta's booming, the North Georgia area is booming with construction. So as we've looked at it, we thought about how would we phase the project if we need to do that. And all of the pricing and the packages is set up with lots of alternates so that we will have, we hope on bid day, the means to kind of choose and select what's the best for these phases. So I'll tell you first in phase one that we did go out early and we ordered all of the HVAC equipment back in February, as we told you. And the idea there was it's just a long lead time, 8 to 12 weeks on much of that equipment. So we've ordered all of that, and it will be in hopefully in time for this summer. The bid documents, I said, were completed in February, end of February, and the pricing packages are out. The bid advertisement actually is on our website right now. It's put in up today, and everything is due on March 28th at 2 p.m. So we'll have a busy afternoon and evening that day trying to look through all of that and see where we are. And probably for that next period of days between March 28th and the 6th is kind of the pricing review. Where are we? How do we balance all the alternates? And then we'll be prepared to report to the board in April the guaranteed maximum price from Bowen & Watson. We've already met with a number of people at the school, and we met with the principal this week to talk about questions that the staff has, the teachers, about what do they need to do. And as I said before, our process, we really wanted to hopefully let the teachers and students end without lots of disruption and come back with a little disruption. That's hard to do with construction. So in phase one, we designed it in a manner we trust that when we get started, we won't have to do as much disruption in all of the regular classrooms. And I'll share that in just a moment. But we plan to meet with, just after spring break, with the entire staff, and we'll talk about all of their needs. We're going to go ahead and send out some open dumpsters now, just to allow them, a start to kind of declutter classrooms and spaces. And we heard about some publications that they've got stored that go back to the 50s, and probably most of that's online these days. So we hope that we'll get a lot of use of the recycle bin as well. The full project commencement, I've got on there May 26th. We had a telephone meeting today with the contractors, and they're going to be pushing hard to get in there on the 24th or 25th. And we're fine, but we're still there. Teachers are there, but we'll just learn to play together well, we hope, in that couple of 3 days. And then right after that, phase one will start. We're aiming to be through, hopefully by the 23rd to 25th. Our teachers come back on the 24th. They have 4 days of pre-planning. We have already asked for and need a couple of those days, but frankly, we'll be working right through probably the 29th, and the students come back on Monday the 30th, so it'll be a very busy time. On the next slide, you'll see what we've categorized for phase one. We intend to do a lot of site work. The main site work is the parking lot, the paving, repaving, particularly in the bus area, but we also have an additional lane that goes out front, and all of it would be seal coated and restriped. We're going to roof the building, and that roofing will include additional insulation for energy. We're doing a complete new HVAC system throughout. That's across the board, and we're updating plumbing throughout the building. New restroom, not so much the partitions, but the doors and accessories. We'll do new lighting, new fire alarm systems. We're gonna work with, I think it's 7 locations, card access system on some of the selected doors. The front 2 doors, there's an entry vestibule, so we'll need 2 there, and then 5 other doors, including the kitchen, that would allow card access. Very important these days as we talk a lot about security. And that'll include new data cabling. New doors and hardware throughout. That'll be many of the exterior doors, if not all of them, and all of the interior doors, the wood ones, and we're scheduled to have a really nice material on the exterior doors, an FRP. It's a material that's very durable and really nice finish to it as well.
No maintenance.
No painting required.
Right. That's right. They don't rust. New ceilings throughout. And we're going to do the plan is to do in phase 1 all of the core areas. We've flipped a little bit from where we were thinking before to, I think, to give a better process for the school. And so our idea is the large classrooms, chorus, band, the laboratories, the media center, the admin area, and all of the corridors, so that when everybody comes back, they'll walk into that part of the building. That'll include new finishes, flooring, painting, cabinetry, marker boards, etc. And then in the kitchen, we'll have new cooler freezer, new dishwasher, new kitchen hood, and serving lines. So we're excited about that. If we go to the next slide, phase 2, and we really narrowed this down to, there's what we call a standard size classroom. There's, I think, about 660 square feet, and there are 43 of those in the building. If all worked out perfectly, we'd love to do everything, but we kind of believe this is the best route that would give us those we would come back, and I've listed on there the October, November, the winter break at Christmas, February, the April breaks is a time that we would choose, and we aren't quite sure how many we could do at a time, but you've got in each one of those cases at least 9 days, counting the weekends. So we would do somewhere between 5, 6, 7 classrooms at a time and phase that over the year to bring those up to the same level that everything else is. The idea there is that the teachers can come back in August. The room will have new lighting, new ceiling, the corridors will be fine, new air conditioning, new doors. That may take a few more weeks, but they'd only really be missing painting, floor covering, and some cabinetry. We can go in and take all of without the teachers being impacted and having to repack or unpack everything and pack. We take everything out in the corridor, 1 room at a time, finish that work, and then move them right back in. So we feel like if that's what's required in this, it's the best process for the teachers and for the students.
It's very little impact on the school, which was a big thing. It is kind of reverse of what we were thinking before, but the impact on the staff especially with testing all of May.
We can't afford to have them packing up in May.
No, right.
They've got to be focused.
So I think this is a better approach.
And packing up for many teachers is 25, 30, 40 bucks, and it's a lot. A lot of teachers will keep everything they've had since 1968, so, and we'll need it someday. I shouldn't have said that, but I did. The next slide, any questions on the project? That's everything we have on the project right now, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share tonight. Tomorrow's a full schedule, and we'll have more tomorrow in operations, but it's nice to go through these tonight. Questions?
That's good. We used to have summers where we could finish all this.
Yeah.
That's gonna be pushing it to do what you're doing even in the amount of time that you've got. You're gonna be working around the clock.
Yeah, we had a good conversation. I will tell you, I was glad in our conversation today that all of the Watsons at Bowen & Watson were in the room, and the project manager and the estimator. So it's good that the whole team is involved. It's not just down to one person. So, and they were all very familiar with our project. The next thing we wanted to talk about a little bit that we started last month was to talk about West Jackson Middle overcrowding. And as a result of that discussion, where we presented 6 options, to the board. Since that time, we had a session with you at UGA in terms of how to think about decision-making, some processes, and the one we used there was a 4-value system. So we came back, we meaning about 5 or 6 of us, and one afternoon, spent the whole afternoon talking, went through that process. I put modified because we didn't play totally by the rules, but we did a pretty good job at it. One session wasn't quite enough. You probably could have led us better through that, since you were deep into it. We did the best we could, and then out of that, we came up with a kind of a recommended option, which we're calling 8 and 9 is on-site expansion. We also included tonight a second option, option B, which is to relocate 1 grade level to West Jackson Primary. So we're going to share just a few slides and a few thoughts about this, and Mr. Patton's going to walk us through the first part, all about option A, and then I'll pick up some on option B.
So of course our long-term option right now, our plan is when we open a new high school, West Middle gets immediate relief. Looked at the classroom space, and we really feel we got enough space for classrooms. In the middle school, so much of the building's empty.
One portion
throughout the day. So certain classes we felt like could float that aren't space dependent. And some of Spanish, health, business, journalism. So they can move around the building. Which gave us some space for other things on site actually. And if you want to go to that next slide. So we looked at the core area, expanding, and picked these 5 areas that were really impacted the most. If you look at, which one's next? The band room. So I don't know if y'all have ever been in the band room, but there's a lot of kids over there in band. It is packed. So really a fairly inexpensive fix to that was just go in under the existing roof and gut it. Take out all the walls and then add.
You can see also in the upper left is existing.
Yeah.
And then in the yellow
so this would be the
planned.
We added an addition to the left, which would be office, and on there is storage, but I think that would be
like
more
2
of a,
rooms,
just a breakout space. And we would actually have storage on the wall inside that room. So I think that's a really great option.
Adding how many square feet?
We didn't put that on here, but we went from the main area of the band room was somewhere around 1,600.
Existing?
Yeah.
And it goes
Now
to
it's just
22,
nearly 22.
almost 23.
Yeah.
I think we did for about.
So it's 800
I think it's about
square feet.
600.
Yeah.
650 feet.
We added a classroom.
The equivalent of a classroom
Basically.
size.
To the left.
Yeah. Well, in the core area.
Right.
Of it. And then the next slide was looking at the cafeteria, and of course we've already had one addition to the cafeteria, but we feel like we can go out to the right side, and that was adding 1,800 square feet. We also, the serving line is an issue. The more kids you put in there, so we did add another serving line with that. This again, flat roof, trying to keep it as low cost as possible.
Talk about that outdoor eating area before you leave it.
Yes. Oh, and you can see to the left, that's outside, but we'll be concreting that area. So we thought it would be a great outdoor picnic area for a lot of the kids in there. The media center, you can see those 2 rooms on there that were, one right now is a printer room, the other is just basically a storage room. Same thing as a band room, just taking out a couple of walls to expand that area and the thought is that more like Jackson County High School Media Center, you know, giving a little more space for some different things in there. And the 800 wing, and looking at the Innovation Academy and trying to figure out a space on site for them. By moving those, having those other floater classes, it opened up 6 classrooms on that wing. For them, the way they need a bigger space, so we took out 2 walls. Combining those 2 rooms gives them about 1,200 square feet per space. And I think that works out really well for them. The only thing they're missing is the big rooms, the cafeteria size room, which we put the big primary school or Gordon Street.
And that's an option. So right now, that wing is 8 classrooms.
Yeah.
And so that would reduce the technically to 6 classrooms because you're using double classrooms. So
right.
If we needed to go back later and put those heavy duty portable walls, you've got, but it's very similar to what we've done at the West Jackson Elementary School with the collaborative space and creating 2 of those at the actual middle school, with the ability to make it either 2 rooms or 4 rooms.
Yeah.
So.
And these staying under the existing roof is really a fairly low cost option to most of it.
We thought too that just it gives you a great opportunity for special identity. There's one other class that would be in there, a special education class, but it's kind of dedicated to that area. But we really feel like that 800 wing would be the Innovation Academy,
right.
Accommodate a good many students, a lot of students, and we could do something this summer or during the year to make it very unique and interesting.
And so from a configuration point of view at the middle school level, that could accommodate 2 6th grade, 2 7th grade, and 2 8th grade. So you pull that number of students off of the core area up on the main wings, and they're served down here. They've got their own space. It's very special, but you're not taking them off site. They've got their own space, and it reduces the number of homerooms needed on the main wings because they're served down there.
So we look through the entire school, and it does work. It requires, and it kind of goes back to that earlier comment that said we would need to look at scheduling to make sure we've got as much of a balance as we can, and then space assignments and a willingness to float some. And we felt like it works very well.
So that was option A. You want to speak to the advantages we spoke to a little bit?
Yeah, and these are the same that we shared with you last month. The advantages, of course, as we said, they're on site. The teachers and staff and students can collaborate more easily. Connections options are right there, and it works. It gives everybody a more probability of getting what they want when they need it. Food service on site, transportation is already in place. Again, a separate, distinct learning environment, which would be the same as option B. And this is a good capital investment. We feel much better about this in the long run. It's SPOS dollars going towards what its intent is versus renting. Challenges, cost. I'll share that in just a couple of minutes. And then trying to fit it into a design and construction schedule is another piece that we need to factor in. We have factored in with our architect and are working on it. But we're waiting on all of our pricing. So we don't have any more information to share with you on specific pricing other than what I'll share in a moment. And then option B is an opportunity to do something quite different, and that's to move 1 grade level. Move it to West Jackson Primary School. And on the left, you'll see the grade level needs. We anticipate about 14, 15, 16 classrooms, depending how it plays out. There would be some need for not a media center, I don't think, but probably some sense of a distribution of the existing media center, but for here, more of a multi-purpose space, and that would be probably the existing, or what was the media center, and then some small administrative space. The logistics, which we've not dealt with very deeply at this point, but we thought about transportation, and it's likely that there might be transport of students from some that might be directly from home to the school if it's close by, and others that might come to West Jackson Middle and then hop an express bus to go back. The idea is the stage would be to spend your mornings at West Jackson Primary, and then at lunchtime, this is one option, is to come back to West Jackson Middle and then spend the afternoon there in connections. So we have content classes, the core classes morning, and connections in the afternoon, and then that puts them back on the campus for athletics at the end of the day. Again, we haven't there's lots more details to flesh out in terms of logistics on that, but that's kind of the focus. And there's the floor plan, and at this stage, there's the only use that's been there lately is the innovation team, and they're on the far left-hand side, and some of the cafeteria, and the rest is not occupied at this moment. So we go to the next slide. We'll look at some advantages and some challenges. The advantages, and this is much like we shared with you last month, that it's already in use one day a week and has been. Students and parents have put time and effort in some painting and cleaning and have done a nice job there. There's adequate space, obviously, in the building for growth. It would be a separate and distinct facility that kind of honors that. Is a really remarkable experience. And then it's an ongoing use of a vacant facility, which is always a good thing. On the challenge side, it's an older facility that requires lots of upgrades. It's been vacant for a while now, and we have used parts and pieces from the building to maintain other buildings. So it would need to be brought back up, upgraded for occupancy. The connections class availability, I gave you one thought on that, but it's a little bit more difficult in terms of how do we do that and accomplish it. As we shared last month, it's a capital investment in a building that doesn't have a firm plan for the future. So we've got to be careful where our dollars go, so that's a challenge. And then I put on here some staff members. Administration, we would need a receptionist or a secretarial type position, administration type, some custodial support. There are some security concerns that we shared last time when you're off-site in the building, you're separate. We want to be careful. We want to make sure that we have all the same expectations at that location that we would at any location. And so that's a concern we need to deal with. And then food services is difficult in the logistics I shared a moment ago. I'm not quite sure how we would do, and we haven't talked with Dr. Morris about this, but breakfast is a little bit difficult, so we just have to work on that, and then transportation. So, but those are the same we shared with you last time. And then the last slide is the cost estimates we have at this point. And one on the left is option A, and that's directly from Southern A&E from our architect, was right at $600,000, slightly under that, was the cost to do what Mr. Patton shared with you on site. The cost on the right for option B, the construction cost is the same. That's at $25 a foot. I increased because we're talking about more kids, the fixtures and the furniture, but then left transportation alone, not knowing at this point how we might approach it. And then thought of the additional staff, and that's 4 staff members. That's 2 custodians, 1 receptionist, and 1 school nutrition staff member. So was kind of a best estimate at this point. So the presentation goes on, but that's for tomorrow. So I won't go further in that, but I would love to have your comments and thoughts on the options.
Well, Mr. Gilbert, I appreciate you being able to put 2 options together tonight, because I know I threw a monkey wrench at you this afternoon.
It's fine.
In our discussions, we had already mentioned that as far as the cottages and the trailers, we just didn't feel that was a safe and secure and a good investment for the taxpayers' money. Safety and security is always at our foremost as far as with that, and then as far as the education of our children is going to come regardless what type of of a classroom that we have, but we just feel that they're together, it's gonna be a better scenario. But based on what we had, I had no idea that you had option A already being worked on, which my thoughts and discussions with each of the team members here, that as far as the option B that you had from the slides was really gonna be our best option. And we had enough vacant school to be able to work on that. But if we're able to get the construction of option A taken care of and get that, I think that's probably the best bang for the money and keeps everybody on the same campus. That's important. That's safety, security, and education, and as far as to be able to do what we need to do. So timeline.
Yeah, that was what I was.
When would you be able to get this completed option A?
This summer, right?
The media
That's what we
center,
need.
the media center is easy.
It's 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
Just remember that.
The media center is easy. The
800 hall is easy.
The 800 hall is easy.
Yeah.
The band room it's fairly easy because it's just, by the time school started back, the room would be gutted and finished. The office and
The additional.
the additional space would just be when school opened, more than likely just doors at that point. And they'd still be working on it outside. And same thing with the cafeteria addition. We could do the opening during the summer. It would have to be, closed off. I would think by December, but all that would be.
Could you do that in 3 phases, as far as the 800 wing and then the media center, and then that, as far as to be able to work it through to December, possibly having the 800 hall done by end of summer?
Yeah.
I think the 800.
That's essential. That's where we need.
That's just not done too long.
That's where we need the space for the classrooms. That would give us that, and then the media center to follow suit, and then the cafeteria.
Right.
I think the media center would be summertime as well.
Yeah.
The concrete outside would be probably going into maybe a few weeks into the fall. We aren't quite sure on that yet, but I would agree. I think you'd probably come back on the cafeteria and on the band room. There'd be some plywood up on the wall. We'd be working outside. And then one day, pull the plywood down and it's a big, beautiful room.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's doable. I think this is something, we're gonna present this to the advisory council tonight.
We can. We wanted to do what's pressing. Mr. Nicholson and I had communicated with them that we were gonna follow up with the design thinking and talk about high school programming. But we can certainly walk through this if that's your preference. I certainly honor that.
It's easy to be able to pull a checkbook out and write a check for, if you got the money, the $20,000 to $100,000, but when it's taxpayer money and it's $600,000 to $1 million. It's one of these things that we've taken time, a long time, and thought about, and I know that you guys have really looked at every aspect possible to be able to get this taken care of. And I think at the point right now is we can't wait 2 years. We cannot wait 2 years for the new high school. I'd love to be able to say let's wait and not put the $600,000 into an existing building, but the building's not going away. We're going to continue to need it.
For a long time.
In fact, Michael's and my discussion this afternoon, we may eventually need the primary location is another middle school there. We just don't know that at this point right now. Each month, if we have 14 students, by the time we get to a year, we've got another 200 kids here. If that keeps happening every month, so I think
they're coming.
Oh, yeah, they're still building.
I suggest that we share this with the advisory council tonight and get their opinion upon the two locations, the 2 options, and we can have discussion further about it tomorrow and hopefully have an action item put on the agenda for Monday.
I agree. I think it'd be smart. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Very good. We are reminded of how fortunate we are to have such an expert team among us.
We are.
Josh has been working for a long time, and then you bring Mr. Gilbert in with his amazing expertise and ability to quickly wrap his head around things, and I'm extremely grateful to the board for their support of our team, because we have a dynamic team that we're working with.
Well, it clearly shows with the finances that it goes not only from the lovely ladies here taking care of that, but as far as it's a team effort, and it shows. It really does. I appreciate everybody's hard work.
Thank you very much, and I believe, outside of our advisory council, there's no other topics for the work session. We get to spend the whole day together. I want to go ahead and let you know that Dr. Morris, as always, is going to take care of us and take very good care of us. And so she'll have breakfast ready for us in the morning between 7:45 and 8, and we'll be ready to roll and have a great morning. So,
Dr. Morris, I was told that Tim is on a diet and he no peanut butter cake.
I'm gonna start mine.
You wanna tell
Yeah, Steve wants to have all his, yeah.
I guess officially we can adjourn and return to the advisory council.
All right, very good. Thank you, everybody.